There's plenty of jobs out there that ain't meant for the weak of heart. Working on an oil rig, narrowly escaping death in a Chinese steel mill, there's always going to be one profession that'll separate the men from the boys. Something for only the toughest of the tough. That is, making white guy YouTube video essays about old games. But when you gotta play a game like Clock Tower, dear Lord Almighty, this job will drive you to the brink of insanity. Clock Tower is one of those games that I occasionally heard mention of here or there, like in the comments of an Instagram post or something. I know JonTron made a video about it like 40 years ago now, so I figured it must have been a pretty great game. But since Sultan Jafari had already covered the very first entry on the Famicom, the mantle now falls to me. I must be the one to continue the legacy. Fortunately for me, Clock Tower is a whole series of horror games that span across the early PlayStation and PlayStation 2 era. So here I am, thinking this is gonna be another easy video about a forgotten game from long ago. Oh, how truly wrong I was. Clock Tower is an affront to all human life. It is genuinely baffling to me that this game even got made. Sure, I may not be the best at playing games, or I might not be the sharpest tool in the shed, or I may have an outstanding warrant for my arrest. But just trust me when I say this, these games deserve to be left in the past. The team we have to thank for these playable pile of human waste would be Human Entertainment. You might know them from such titles as Fire Pro Wrestling, Game for People, Fun Is to Have, and Filth. On a completely unrelated note, this is the only Wikipedia page to have a goddamn category for fate, and then to the right of it, it just says bankruptcy. So yeah, rest in piss, I guess. You know you're in for a phenomenal experience when the first line of dialogue in the opening cutscene is drowned out by the music.
The evil murderer slashed to death.
Why, I can't hear you!
I don't know what time they were trying to set for the game with this 90s ass Eurobeat music, but I dig it, not gonna lie.
But we'll never solve the mystery of Scissor Man.
You've got to be joking. It's way too dangerous.
This is legit the first point and click I've ever played. I did zero research before playing this game, and it truly came back to bite me in the ass. Lord knows I'm used to really early PlayStation games having controls that make you want to gouge your eyes out. But Clock Tower is a whole new beast when it comes to controlling like shit. You control whatever character you're playing as by clicking an area on the screen and watching them drag their feet over for the next 10 minutes. You can cut it down to 8 minutes if you double click and make them run. I say point and click, but this game was on the OG PlayStation. You had to use the D-pad to determine where the heck it is you wanted to go. Could you imagine the agony of having to play a game like that? Truly a fate worse than death. If you hover over something that you can interact with, the cursor changes into this spinning crosshair thing. It's pretty helpful that the cursor kind of gravitates towards the things you want to interact with. But even then, it's not super helpful, mainly because you gotta use your best guesswork to figure out what you're interacting with. I feel like I'm taking an eye exam playing this game. How am I even supposed to interpret this? Off the top of my head, I'm gonna try to remember the characters without looking them up. There's Helen, Gotts, Saeed, Miku. The fact that I can't even remember the major characters in a murder mystery game should tell you all you need to know. I know expecting masterclass, Academy Award winning writing is unrealistic for a game on the original PlayStation, but I don't know, I was expecting something. Final Fantasy games existed around this time, so they've got no excuse. I love the way the characters talk. They start a sentence, then you gotta wait 10 seconds for the rest of the dialogue. Professor, Helen left a few minutes ago, and she looked angry. These bitches love Sosa. So the plot of this insanely narrative-rich game revolves around a series of murders that have been occurring around Oslo, Norway. The perpetrator seems to be murdering his victims with a pair of giant scissors and has been dubbed the Scissor Man. What if he killed people with a giant stapler, and they called him the Staple Man, and this game didn't suck shit? There's some type of paranormal mumbo-jumbo surrounding the Scissor Fella, as he's able to seemingly appear out of nowhere, and is also impervious to bullets. This wouldn't happen in America though, just saying. So the main crux of the gameplay revolves around encountering Scissor Man in a confined space that there's magically no escape from. Don't forget, this is a point and click game too, so your ability to escape these encounters depends on how well you can drag a cursor around with your controller. One thing that is important to know about these encounters is that when your cursor starts flashing red and blue, this means that if you tap the square button enough, you can dodge or fight your way out of being killed. When does the game tell you this, you may ask? Literally never. I didn't know this until the final section of the game. Every time I got into an altercation with Scissor Man, I just watched my character die and be filled with envy. They get to pass on to the next life while I gotta sit here and play Clock Tower? This world is truly a dark and cold place. Most of the time, I'm against using a walkthrough for games. Even if it's challenging or confusing, going in blind and figuring things out for yourself is still extremely satisfying. There is legitimately no way to play through Clock Tower without a guide. There is no map, no hints, no objective markers, nothing. This wouldn't even be a bad thing necessarily. It would fit the mysterious nature of the game. But there's just one small issue. This game was made by psychos. I feel like I'm working at a rodeo with the amount of bullshit I gotta trudge through. The order in which you have to interact with objects in game and solve puzzles is mind-boggling. For example, later in the game, in a castle, you come across a bookcase that holds a bunch of books with copper sleeves. Earlier in the level, I found a book with a copper sleeve, so the next logical step would be to put my book into the bookcase, right? No, you troglodyte, you gotta examine the scratch marks on the floor first. Or how about in the first level of the game where you find a perfectly usable can of mace, but you can only use it when Scissor Homunculus is chasing you around. I genuinely think that there must have been a carbon monoxide leak in the studio during development. I refuse to believe that the devs weren't impaired in some way while making this game. A walkthrough is also entirely necessary because you can soft lock yourself by sneezing wrong. I tried to do my best to get through the game without using one, but that only lasted halfway through the first level. The walkthrough got me to the final section of the game, but I'm pretty sure I ended up soft locking myself somehow. I came to a part where I had to pick one of 3 caves to crawl through, and all 3 led to me getting swarmed by rats. Nothing about that in the walkthrough. Is it my fault for messing up somewhere along the walkthrough? Yeah, probably. But why in Jah's name would you design a game like this? And that was only my first playthrough. So that means I couldn't even finish the game the first time I tried. Not to mention the game has 10 endings.
Kill yourself!
I was distraught, but that's all okay, because being the determined and hardworking guy I am, I went back and played through the game to get all the endings. And I can safely say, it's not worth finishing the game, dog. The only good thing I can say about Clock Tower is its length. Mercifully, one run of the game will only really cost you 3 hours of time you could spend doing literally anything else. But trust me, you will feel every second of those 3 hours playing this game. Alright, well, that's 3 hours I'm never getting back. But the second game's gotta be better, right? Surely they learned valuable lessons from the first entry and chose to make important changes to improve the overall experience. Please? Clock Tower 2, The Struggle Within. You can fucking say that again. Released in 1998, you'd think with the time between releases, the devs could have gotten around to getting their carbon monoxide detectors replaced. Nope. The second game now takes place in Japan. Nihon, if you will. Or as I like to call it, O-Block. At the very least, the voice acting is better than the first game, but I think that's mainly due to the fact that I'm playing the Japanese dub. The English version sounds like it was voiced by the people in those old acting tryout videos.
Ellen Hale, that Maxwell curse is...
So now that I've learned my lesson the hard way with this creative masterclass, I'm going into Cock Power 2 with a video walkthrough on lock. I'm not letting this game get the better of me. I'm seeing this through to the end. So to nobody's surprise, the gameplay is exactly the same as the first. Same point and click formula adored by tens of fans across the globe. We play as a shy Japanese schoolgirl. Her name is Shu, I think. There were like 7 named characters in the first level alone, and I couldn't really keep track. The first thing we're treated to is seeing this yellow goo splattered across the bathroom. SpongeBob seems to have gotten too excited.
Almost there.
Don't feel free to explore the residence at your own pace. The same insanely pedantic order of operations is carried over from the first game, down to the point where you can't interact with items in a room if the lights are off. Another reason why a walkthrough is absolutely required to get in anywhere. So we dilly-dally around the house for a while, fought a strange child with jaundice, and eventually we gotta burn a cursed statue in the fireplace. Except, I forgot to look at the walkthrough for 0.2 seconds, and got shanked by this little shit. And instead of restarting back at my last save, the game ended. That's it. You're free. But against my better judgment, I ignored the sign from the universe and continued playing. I can't let this game win over me. Alright, so next level is in a hospital. Standard procedure. Kill people with jaundice, find a gun, yada yada yada. There's a part where we read a document talking about how the people we're fighting have some type of brain parasite that turns them into these zombies. Where the hell is Scissor Man? Anyway, now I gotta shoot them in the head. I thought I was already doing that, but whatever. Huh? The guy in the walkthrough completely destroyed this enemy. Do I just gotta die now? Alright, you know what? How many endings does this game have anyway? There are so many things in life worth doing, worth seeing through to the end. Clock Tower is not one of them. I completely understand why human entertainment went bankrupt. Nothing they made could have been made by humans or for humans. This studio is composed of aliens, so heed my warning. Do literally anything other than playing the Clock Tower games. Smoke Fent. It'd probably be better for your health in the long term.
What the fuck is, what is that?